Thank you, ma'am, for spending time with us and being with us this evening. It's an absolute privilege, talking to you today. Um, First up, Chairman Sale. I remember having a discussion with Arundhati Bhattacharya, who was then Chairman State Bank of India, and she said she couldn't do anything about the designation chairman because it was mandated under the State Bank of India Act that it would be Chairman State Bank of India. Chairman Sale, what is your take? What's your experience?
Very interesting question, because this is a question I've been asked right from the day I got selected and then I took over office. But for me, it is different. I somehow believe chairman is a very gender neutral word. So whether it's chairman, chairperson, it doesn't really make a difference, I feel. And for me, the PSB selection, the PSB is the selecting authority, and they selected it as chairman, so I continue to be the chairman.
And as long as you get the work done and take SAIL forward, that's good enough.
It's good enough.
So basically, we were just having this discussion before we came in here, and one of the leading lights of the cement industry just said that he's a client of yours and he has seen the kind of changes you have brought in ever since you took charge in January last year. And he said that, it's like a breath of fresh air and the kind of changes. Tell us a little about what are the key things you've done since you've taken charge at SAIL.
See, one of the most important issues which we have is decision making, is the delay in decision making. So for which it's very important that we empower. So when I took over, I think the first step which I took is giving more empowerment to my directors, my functional directors who are there, and of course, naturally down below also. So that way you empower, but when you empower, you should have the trust. It's not a one way. First is you have a trust, and you also have a system of a feedback mechanism. So that if that is well installed, if that is there, then there should not be a problem. This empowerment has been taken very nicely and it is working well. Something else which I also did when I took over was we started having a functional directors meeting every Monday for 45 minutes, not more than that. And this was a clear chai pe charcha. The COVID taught us that video discussions are very easy. So what happened is with the functional directors, because SAIL, as you know, is a very complicated, complex organization. We have so many plants in different places, and each plant has its own typical issue because each plant has grown at separate times with a separate social background. So in the morning when we have this discussion, I feel most of the issues which we have get sorted out. And what we need to do later, we don't have to really wait. What to do, which way to go ahead, issues like what to do so far as ESG is concerned, what to do so far as productivity is concerned, or even the infrastructure problems we face, that gets sorted out. Informal discussion in which way we need to take the company forward. I think that has been helped a lot.
So people are much more open to coming up to you with solutions, suggestions, and just, reaching out to you now?
Yes. I believe in clear communication. I am there available for any functional director or even executive director that is one level below and two level below. So they can walk into my room anytime when I'm free. Absolutely.
Ma'am, through the day we've had several discussions on the topic India at 100. It's a very important journey next 25 years where India will, looking at achieving its rightful place as a global leader in the economic world. We wanted to know how you think, and yet when you look at women in leadership, particularly in manufacturing, the situation is not great. Whether it is on the boards of manufacturing companies or generally, in fact, the representation still leaves a lot to be desired. What is your thinking on that, and what are you doing in your company, in a large PSU like yours, to change the narrative?
See, women in general, there are few at senior levels, and that I would believe would be one of the main reasons is the pool, which is not available, from where you can take them to the director level. And why does it happen? It happens mainly because in the initial 10 years of the life, the challenges are different. Because of the societal pressures, the societal thought that the woman is the main homemaker. So in that case, what happens is the woman somewhere either goes a bit slow or gives a gap, and the environment is still not mature enough to take that woman back in the same speed later on. So women do give up. They give up at 2 levels, 2 points. One is when they start a family, or even they become slow when the child gets around 10th or 12th standard. So that is where it gets slower. But you still feel in businesses, in finance, as well as in IT sector, there are plenty of women. And I would believe in the next few years, maybe in 5 years or a decade, you will have at least a fairly good representation. In manufacturing, it is less for various reasons. One of the main reasons, I would say, manufacturing, the units are placed in generally remote areas, and the women find it difficult to go there. And even if they go there after they get married, and if they don't get married within the same place, the relocation, the societal thought process that the woman is the person who needs to relocate, that becomes a major issue. So first is we do not have too many women who are really would be interested to join manufacturing. And second, I think, which is more important, that in manufacturing, we are generally very protective about the woman. So what happens if there's a challenging role, we tend to not give it to the woman, but ultimately, without understanding, it is going to impact her growth in the longer run. So I keep on telling women that what you do, if you feel there's a challenging role and you can do it, please go up and speak to your boss. Tell that, look here, I want to do this job. And that is where it will make her growth much more easier. Women lose out here also. Because in sale, at least, I don't see a director from the works coming up in the next 3 to 4 years, and which is sad. So this is something we need to do.
Are you sort of changing that? What are you doing at SAIL?
As a company, yes, we have a lot of women-friendly policies. We also try to take more during the management training, technical or management training, administrative positions. But the main problem happens when they join. See, in companies like SAIL, we generally take at the entry level. Later on, lateral entry is very little. So to continue to have them is when we need to adjust ourselves to agree to their transfers, and that becomes a bit difficult. But otherwise, ours is a very women-friendly company, women-friendly policy, so that's not an issue. The issue is, how do I keep them with me?
Ma'am, you have come from an aluminium industry background into one of the largest steel makers, that to a public sector company. Tell us a little more about your journey to the corner room of SAIL, and how that you think can motivate many more women to come into manufacturing roles like you've done.
See, I joined NALCO, that's public sector, way back in '84. I grew in the company and became a director commercial in 2014. Subsequently, within 3 years, I thought it's time to look out for a change, look out for a more challenging role. So that time, the SAIL advertisement of director commercial came up, and I applied, and luckily I got it. But it was a challenging role. When you said, how do I take it as a challenge? See, at that point of time, there were 2 challenges. The market was bad, the commodity market was bad, aluminum was doing bad, but steel was doing even badly. The company was making losses. So I had 2 challenges then, that the market was bad, being in director commercial, I would have to bring in the money for the company. And secondly, the more important was coming in from a company which is altogether different, a much smaller company, much fewer people, to a company which is much more complex, how I would be accepted by the people, by the men mainly there, my men colleagues there. But I was worried that the second one would be more difficult than the first, but tell you, there was absolutely no, the transition was too smooth, too nice, people have been warm. I think from our side, we need to move out from that mental block that there would be problems, and if you give your hand forward, I'm sure the other side also is always there to help you. So I have not faced any problem there.
You said that, of course, there are a lot of blocks and mental blocks also about women coming into manufacturing. How then did you choose to come into this, the manufacturing sector in the metals industry?
I passed out as an engineer way back in '84. So to tell you, that point of time, I really did not think where I'm going to join, what I'm going to do. Those days were not the days of internet where I knew much about any company. My parents were staying in Bhubaneswar. I belonged to Bhubaneswar. So there was this graduate engineer trainee tests which we gave. I got into SAIL, I got into NALCO and a few more public sectors. And NALCO gave me a posting in Bhubaneswar. My parents were in Bhubaneswar, so I took it up without thinking what the future holds for me. But it has been nice. The journey has been good. But you have to take up challenges. That is the most important thing.
How do you think people like you can become role models for the larger community of women in India? Because, when you talk about India at 100, you cannot achieve what you want to achieve without a large part of the women coming into the workforce, breaking these myths which you talked about, coming into different roles which otherwise would have not been imaginable. So that will actually add to the whole story of India going forward. How do people like you think, can be empowering the others?
See, first let us talk about what are the present generation of women. They are more confident, they have clear dreams, they are willing to go that extra mile, and they have the grit and the courage to walk forward. So one is there that they have that confidence in them that they will be able to achieve whatever they want to do. But they need to dream big. What I personally feel is we as role models, what we can speak. Maybe there are many a times women come and ask me about my story. There's a big debate about whether women can have it all. I have 3 children. God bless, they are all doing well. I strongly believe women can do it all. The only thing which you need to do is you need to do a day-to-day prioritizing of your job. Otherwise, because in the initial 10 years of your life, of your professional and your personal, when your children are small, you need to decide what you want to do, what you need to get it done. Maybe by your extended family, maybe by your support system, but you have only 24 hours, and within that 24 hours, you will have to balance everything out. So it is very important that you do minute by minute prioritizing, and you have your priorities right. And I think once you look at, now there are plenty of, like in our time, we had very few role models to look up to. But now the present generation have plenty. You have the women flying to space, you have them flying fighter planes, you have presidents, you have prime ministers, you have the C-suits women. So there are plenty of examples. So I think women, what they need to do is just dream big, but have the passion and perseverance to follow it. But in the process, you remember that you have just 24 hours, so you will have to give up something. It is not, you cannot in the 24 hours decide that I'm going to do everything by myself. You have to decide what I need to do, what I need to get it done. But ultimately, that prioritizing and doing and deciding, okay, this is the way I'm going to move forward, is going to help you. But women, I believe you can have it all. Just dream big.
That's really nice. That's absolutely true, ma'am. Coming to the manufacturing story, during the course of the day, we've had a lot of discussions about how manufacturing can power the India story in the next 25 years. As chairman of SAIL, how do you see that, and how do you see the government's push towards manufacturing and Atmanirbhar Bharat?
The policies, now the government has been very proactively making policies, and whatever policies they make, there's a lot of interaction with the stakeholders. So we realize that if we are going to go ahead as Atmanirbhar Bharat, manufacturing holds the key. We have seen what has happened in the Ukraine-Russia war. People who are dependent on either Russia or Ukraine have been suffering. So there's no other way out but to be Atmanirbhar. And to be Atmanirbhar, it is very important that you have your clear-cut future goals, that this is where I need to be. For this, actually for the Atmanirbharta, there are many policies which the government has made regarding how we can push the domestic industry into manufacturing. Like for public sectors like us, anything we want to import less than 200 crores, we have to buy it domestically. And only if it is not available domestically, we can import. So government is working towards how the manufacturing ecosystem would improve. And I think we all are working together. And I'm sure Atmanirbhar, at least there would be many minerals which are not available here, many products which would not be available here. But in general, Atmanirbharta is where we are surely going.
On the steel sector, when we talk to large steel companies, even in the private sector, the whole focus now seems to be completely about the domestic market. The kind of infrastructure push the government has announced, leading to a huge market opportunity for steel makers. How do you see the Indian market opportunity?
See, the Indian market is the only market which has grown in the the first H1. I think we have a growth of nearly more than 5% vis-a-vis degrowth in most of the economies. So we see in the world, if any country is growing where steel consumption is there, it is India. And if the economy and the consumption of steel is very closely related. So we have, what I believe is, we would grow at around the GDP growth, and GDP growth is expected to be around 7 to 8% over the next few years. So the consumption of steel would also increase in the same way. The National Steel Policy, which was made in 2017, envisages a production capacity of around 300 million tons by 2030. Today, we are at 154 million tons. All industries working together. Whether we would achieve that or not by 2030 is a question, but we would surely going that way. And in future, by 2047, also the growth story would continue. But the biggest challenge I think the steel industry would have is how we would make green steel. With the Prime Minister's commitment, Honorable Prime Minister's commitment of being carbon neutral by 2070, that would be the biggest challenge to the steel industry, the cement industry, and others.
Cement makers, some of those who were there earlier have actually committed to becoming carbon neutral very soon. What is SAIL doing on this front?
See, how do we become carbon neutral? One is, steel is one of the biggest industry of carbon polluting, maximum carbon dioxide emissions. So one is, we use technology to reduce the carbon emission. So now I think the India average maybe for would be around 2.5, 2.55. We would have to target it to bring it below 2. But then and that can be done by, coking coal is the biggest, is used as a reducing agent, and which is the biggest emission of carbon dioxide. So tomorrow, what we are looking at is technologies which will be made where we can use more of hydrogen, green hydrogen, or other technologies. But as on date, there is no such technology which can totally eliminate coking coal consumption in the blast furnace BF route. There is a separate route which is the scrap route, but India, as of now, we do not have enough scrap. So the future is, we need to go a bit of scrap way also. At the same time, use whatever carbon emission happens. Ultimately, even if we are using coking coal in the blast furnace BOF route, it may come down to 1.8 or so. But then we have to use that, how we can use it towards carbon capture and utilization. So that is where we all are working. And I'm sure by 2070, we would become carbon neutral.
Thank you, ma'am. More power to you. And may you inspire many more women to join the workforce, including in manufacturing and difficult areas where women usually don't go. Thank you very much. Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.